Hoell. Certainly a little bit more about him. He is a current member of the New Hampshire House of Representatives. He represents the Merrimack District 23 and is the lead in the mechanical systems engineer for Astrotronics Aerosat, a satellite communications firm based in Amherst, New Hampshire. So that makes you rocket science, right, JR? Big round of applause for Representative Hoell. Also joining us, not on your original sheet, has recently been elected as our newest state senator here in New Hampshire. Please, ladies and gentlemen, give a nice big round of applause for Kevin Avard. And of course, last but not least, somebody who's well known on this issue, especially when we talk about federalism. He is no stranger, also has a recent book that he'll chat about a little bit as well. He represents Rockingham District 10. He's also a professional engineer. Please, ladies and gentlemen, give a nice big round of applause for Representative Dan Itse. So what we're going to do is we're going to go closest all the way down. Each one of the panelists is just going to make an opening statement. Then we're going to have them answer back and forth. We will take your questions, so make sure you have your questions ready. But we'll go ahead and start with the Senator.
Well, thank you very much, Kevin Avard, big friend-elect, and thank you for the applause. I'm excited to be here. I actually was filling in for Senator Jeanine.
Well, thank you for doing that. Representative?
Thank you for the honor of allowing me to be here before you. I wanted to share something with you from States Have Powers. Back in 1808, the legislature of New Hampshire wrote a letter to then President Jefferson. They were admonishing him for some of his actions, like the Louisiana Purchase. But this is a letter that had been introduced to the legislature and then gone through all the legislative sanitation that occurs. So this is a very circumspect letter. The legislature of New Hampshire being assembled and realizing that the present is to our country a momentous period, and sensible that the bond of confederation which connects the independent states of America is strengthened by unanimity alone between the National Council and the state legislatures. And not ignorant that the present crisis in our national affairs has excited the present humors that are occasionally afflict the national system and may mar the fair prospect of our political institutions. In the view of the legislature of the state of New Hampshire, despite the change in government from Articles of Confederation to the Constitution, it was still a confederation linked not by change, but by unanimity. Oh, and one question. Well, I have you all here before you. There's something wrong with this stage. Can anybody identify what is missing?
New Hampshire flag.
Lunch is on us for the person who answered that. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Phil Innes today as well, and the token female. I just want to say that it's a privilege for me to be up here today with these three distinguished gentlemen. I served with all three of them in the House, and they're three of the best.
Representative Hoell.
Thank you. We've seen the federal government encroach into New Hampshire state education year after year after year. Even Secretary Duncan, a Democrat, has made comments that No Child Left Behind is a failed policy. So it's time for us to start taking a strong view of our education and to remove ourselves from the chains that the federal government and Department of Education has laid down for us.
So we'll start once again. We'll start all the way back with Representative Hoell as we continue this conversation. That is the biggest conversation right now when we talk about federalism, is education. When we look at current legislation that is in New Hampshire, how does the New Hampshire House, the New Hampshire Senate, and those other entities of our government
years ago, which allows us to, as parents, pull our children out. This was House Bill 542, and pull our children out of curriculum or courses that we have issues with. That small step is the first step down a long road to restore liberty back to the education process.
And with that, Representative Nutter, when we think about dealing with that, one of the questions that you have to deal with on a daily basis is, but it's free money. It's money that we need. And they always counter with, and it doesn't intercede in local control. How do you talk about that when you meet with your constituents on that?
Well, number one, nothing is free. Like, the federal government is how many trillions of dollars in debt? Where does the money come from? It just grows on trees? You know, when somebody said earlier about the federal government printing as much money as they want to. Well, think about it. If diamonds were as plentiful as grains of sand on the beach, what would they be worth? Nothing, as much as sand. So they keep printing this money, it's making it worth less and less.
And so when you talk to constituents, though, do you have an opportunity to kind of explain to them a little bit more the repercussions of some of these policies, like referring back to No Child Left Behind and what a disaster that was?
I do, and, you know, the federal money, let's talk about the school lunch program, okay, because that was a little more, because I have kids in school. They don't buy lunch anymore, it's nasty. My teenager tweets, thanks, Michelle, takes a picture of the nasty food and tweets out, thanks, Michelle. Okay, Michelle, I tell people this all the time. She signed that bill. She has no authority to sign any bill. The whole thing is illegal. They should not be implementing it. Oh, but it comes with free money after all. Yeah, so they're implementing this lunch because they get money from the feds, but the money from the feds is borrowed money from somewhere else. And it's just a huge problem, and we need to fix it.
And right, and panelists, if I ask a question of one panelist, you can go ahead and expand upon that answer. Representative Itse, when you've heard about that too, but one of the things that is constantly in debate is when we look at the powers between the federal government and the state government, people say that you're just being a rabble-rouser. People are saying, you know, you're really not helping the children when you deny them these funds or deny them these policies. But how do you talk about that necessary debate that has to happen as to who really has the authority to help with those situations?
Well, first of all, I am a rabble rouser.
Yes.
But we have to remember that the issue of education is really a parental issue. And if you go back to Lockean theory, and our Constitution, the state Constitution, its first 10 articles plus 12 in particular are perfect statements of Lockean theory. And knowing that Article 37 says that the Constitution is all one document, one chain of connection of unity and amity, that you have to look through it all through that lens. And Locke has a very interesting statement. He has a whole chapter on parental power, parental rights. And it is the duty of parents to educate and provide for their children and their health and their education. The state may help, and it was always considered, if you look at our original rendition of Article 6, the purpose of public education was to make sure that the public was educated adequately to keep us movers of government under control. That was the purpose of public education.
Very good. So, Senator, these are some of your colleagues. You served in the House as well. Now you're over at that other body where you have 24 other senators. Where do you see your role in these issues of federalism as it relates to what they achieve in the House and how you will work in the Senate?
Well, there are a number of issues that, you know, when we're campaigning, we're knocking on a lot of doors and we're talking one single developer coming in and taking that property. And going through a lot of discussion with a number of people, that we're all in agreement that's, amen to that. But then the really crux of the matter comes, well, the federal government's going to override that. And plow through our property through some type of an eminent domain. And those are some of the issues that I really have to look into. How can we push back? How can we say, no, you cannot take this property to enrich one company so that they can export it either through Canada or through our coastline. And really, that's some of the major issues that we are dealing with. And I will actually be looking for help from these guys as well. But we have to push back.
And we talk, and certainly each one of these panelists have shown that they understand the relationship and really the strength of the New Hampshire Constitution. So what we'll do right now is we'll open up the questions to the floor. If you have a question, same as before, go ahead and raise your hands. What we'll do is we'll bring the mic over to you, and then just state your first name, and then if you have a question directed at an individual panelist, go ahead and let us know that as well. In the back, sir.
Yes, thank you, Representative Jeff Hoell. Thank you, panel, for your service. My question is about something that's affecting a lot of families in the United States and in New Hampshire, particularly under the guise of the best interest of the child. We have a very busy, very profitable for some, family court system. We have the court docket in New Hampshire exists with 80% of the court's business in family law. So I guess I'd be interested in any comments on how we might correct this big government intrusion into the family, which often brings a lot of chaos to New Hampshire families.
Representative Hoell.
Thank you, Representative Leahy. As you and I sat on Children and Family Law along with Representative Itse last year, I heard firsthand the issues. When you have men who stand at the courtroom steps in Keene and douse themselves with gasoline and light themselves on fire as a protest to a broken court system, you know it's gone way too far to the left. Part of the solution is, in our current system, is the attorneys that are involved, as you said, profit off of this. They profit off the length of time the case between the husband and wife is in the courtroom, and they make their living that way. It's time to find an alternate path for couples who have found that they can no longer stay together, a way to end that relationship if they need to. And I don't want that to happen, but if they need to, right, to not go through the court system. The court profits off of this, the attorneys profit off of this, and there's an enormous amount of corruption in the system.
Representative Itse.
Thank you. We have to realize that there is a fundamental flaw in the organization of our family courts. The family courts have, there's a valid thing called equity jurisdiction. Equity jurisdiction is the power to compel performance, to issue a stay in divorce, to say this is how you're going to divide the property. Our probate courts have very circumscribed equity powers. Whole chapter of laws are circumscribed in their equity powers. The Supreme and Superior Courts only have the equity jurisdiction of the underlying court that they are hearing from. Criminal courts have no equity jurisdiction. But the equity jurisdiction of the family court says, law to the contrary notwithstanding, they have equity jurisdiction in all their cases. That means in spite of law to the contrary, they have equity jurisdiction. That means that every law we pass in the legislature to restrain their equity jurisdiction is of no effect. We have to take out that first phrase. It's that simple. There's a bill.
For your senator.
Thank you, Jeff, Representative, and I really appreciate that. I know that there are people sitting in this assembly that have suffered under the hands of the courts. Having served on the redress committee along with Representatives that I see Representative Soy here as well, I've seen what I believe are extreme abuses of our court systems. There's a lady in here that's right now that I know of that she's separated from her child, her two sons. Why? Because she didn't sign a fifth agreement to have a guardian ad litem. Because the court said she needed to go through another guardian ad litem, which is supposedly something representative for the children. There's a sealed envelope that the judge holds up. And what's in that sealed envelope separates this woman from her children. Why can't she see what's in that envelope? Well, that's privileged information. Oh, that's not the first one. There are a number of cases in our court system which has been separating people from their children, all in the name of the best interest of the child. A Supreme Court issue has been settled that the best interest of the child is both parents, both loving parents, unless a parent has been properly adjudicated as unfit. But when you have two fit parents, they deserve both. Their civil rights, in my humble opinion, are being violated. Not only the parents' rights are being violated, but the children's right to both parents equally.
I'll be filing a grievance for one of my constituents. He's called several times. He has a baby girl. The baby's mother has some mental illness. So based on an accusation, the child was taken from his home with no proof. The police came when he was at work so that there would be no fight. He's been calling all his representatives, not getting a very good response. I think I'm the only one that's talking to him. Well, Lynette, she's not a representative anymore. Just to make that clear. I feel really sorry for this man. I'm not really sure what to do other than put in a grievance for him. He called me again last night and said that since his baby has been in foster care, she's been abused. So, I mean, this poor little thing, she's never had infections before. She's getting rashes, infections, and I'm going to have to stop because I'm getting emotional because I love babies. But he was very excited to hear that Kevin Avard has been elected to the state senate because I talked about him and redressing grievance and hoping to get things changed to help these parents.
We're going to go to Representative Hoell first. At some point, one of the representatives will also explain what the redress committee is and its current status. But we'll go to Senator Hoell first. I give you a motion. There you go. Representative Hoell.
So part of this comes down to the rule. Our Constitution declares how our judicial branch is set up. It's in Articles 73 and following or something. And part of this has to do with prior constitutional amendments that were passed that give our judicial branch potentially more authority than it should. And one of the things that we need to do is to fix that. It's a constitutional amendment, which requires that it be adopted by 3/5 of the House and the Senate, and then put out to the voters. And why is that important? We need to put some constraints on the judicial branch, and the only way to do that is to go back and address it through, I believe it would be Article 73A, okay, regarding the rules process for our judicial branch.
Great. And welcome back to the Senator. We'll get ready for another question. If you can go ahead and finish your statement, I'll just, we'll go ready for the next question right up here.
With regard to redress,
Yes.
I know that Representative Itse was very much involved with it. It is in our Constitution, Article 31 and 32 of our New Hampshire State Constitution, which allows people to approach and to petition their government. 2010 through 2012, Speaker O'Brien reestablished this committee, the committee of forum, where people could actually bring their petitions to our committee. Now, family court was heavily involved with the petition because a lot of people feel as though their civil rights have been extremely abused. And we found it in at least 28 cases. I know there's another gentleman here, his name is Jeff Frost. And if I may, just,
Sure.
you can understand through what people have gone through by hearing what's going on in our system. Jeff Frost basically made, he's a retired Marine, I believe, pilot. And he had some money to make a couple of investments, and so he made some investments. Well, during the FRM deal, during that period of time, that whole scandal, somehow he got caught in the dragnet, and the Attorney General's office and the banking department just dragged him through a mess. He said, Mr. Frost, what you're doing is illegal. He said, no, it's not. I can do this. No, it's illegal, I said. Well, after they've gone to court, Jeff Frost wins. Yay, Jeff, good for you. The Attorney General's office was not happy with that, so they filed again. And again, and again, all the way up to the Supreme Court. Ladies and gentlemen, the strong arm of the Department of Bureaucracy was on Mr. Jeff Frost. It cost him $185,000 plus emotional stress and fear of imprisonment if he did not comply with the accusations of the Attorney General. But I'm innocent. It went all the way up to the Supreme Court. He was found innocent. But it cost him $185,000. And that's just Jeff. There are other businesses that have been attacked by the Department of Bureaucracy. And I just label that, it could be any branch. Where do you go to file your petition? Who do you talk to? Do you talk to another department head? So we have the Redress of Grievance Committee. He brought his evidence before us, and we founded his case, and it's like a loaded bullet in the chamber in the New Hampshire House that still needs to be voted on. It was a founded case. We have 28 of these. I want to bring these back to the Senate, co-sponsor some of these petitions, because the people need resolution. It was Representative Itse that reminded me of our intent of our Constitution. Justice. Justice. That's why we have a Constitution. And if these people don't have a right to their property, they don't have liberty.
Hi, I'm Pam from Avard. Something that I learned from Representative Itse that I think is very, very important concerning the founding principles of our state, especially as it applies to education, is that originally in the Constitution it said that the local government is the one that has to fund education. And that was taken out of the Constitution in the 60s, I believe, under the guise that it was religious, which I don't see where it has anything to do with religion. But I was wondering, what can we do to bring, if we can't bring that back into the Constitution, how could we at least let people know that that was the original intent? It's not the federal government paying for education. It's not even the state paying for each district. It's the district alone that's supposed to be doing it.
Representative Itse, let's go ahead and take that first.
Well, first of all, you have to educate your legislators. Number one thing. It would be good if we could amend the Constitution to restore its original intent that the towns have the exclusive power of electing and appointing their own teachers, controlling their own curriculum. Stay out of it. Thank you. That's vitally important. The biggest thing is to remember who's in charge of the state, and that's you. Our Article 38, which was originally the last article, it was the crown jewel, if you will, stated in its conclusion that they, the people, have a right to acquire their lawgivers and exact in constant observance of them fundamental principles of the Constitution in justice, moderation, temperance, industry, and frugality, and all the social virtues. In the formation and execution of the laws necessary for the good administration of government. That means that it's you, the people, who are the final interpreters of the Constitution and have the duty to enforce it upon those in government. Not just the representatives, that includes the executive and the judiciary as well. And I'd like to one other thing, reading log. I actually have been reading log recently. And one of Locke's principles is that first of all power comes from the principle of Article 8. And then resides in government, most principally in the legislature. And the further you divide any department of government away from the legislature, the less inherent power it has. So in fact, when in the 1960s, they took the Supreme and Superior Courts out from under legislative creation and made them constitutional courts, that actually diminished their power. That would mean that if there was a controversy between court rules and what the legislature should be the court rules are, it has to be the legislature. When in the 1790s, the governor and council were no longer legislators, that weakened the executive, according to Lockean theory. You need to be aware of that. You need to enforce these principles upon us in government.
Anyone want to expand on the original question?
How many people, by show of hands, understand the term jury nullification? Jury nullification. I would encourage each of you to Google the term Citizen Rulebook, put out by the Association of Attorneys up here. But Google the term Citizen Rulebook. Okay? It's an important concept to understand. This is where, as a juror, right, everybody gets one of those notices once in their lifetime. It says you got to show up and take some time off of work to be involved in the case. And all of us, I got to go there. I can't be there on Monday. We can find some excuse to not be involved. It's important that we understand the authority that the citizens who are jurors have. Not only do we get to judge the case, whether the defendant is guilty or innocent, we also get to judge the application of the law. Why is that important? In that case, as citizens, you have an authority that even the president doesn't have. Okay? You can take a look at the law and say, this law doesn't comply with our Constitution. Therefore, although the person committed the act that we talked about, we're finding him not guilty because the law is wrong. It's time for us to start dealing with our immigration.
Thank you very much. We have a question over here. Sir, what's your name? And if you have a question,
I actually have two questions, but they're related. My name is John Liskarts, and I'm an elected Hochsett School Board member here in Hochsett, New Hampshire. I'm a United States Air Force veteran, and I'm a principal software engineer at Extreme Networks here at New Hampshire company. First of all, welcome to Hochsett, New Hampshire, to all of you that aren't from Hochsett. For the past 2 years, we've designed the fix for the failing American public school system with our model here in Hochsett, which is for high school. 2 years, we've implemented school choice without federal or state intervention. It's on display right now as a prototype for the rest of you to see. So my first question is, now that we have it designed and prototyped for everybody to see it in a working condition, how do we prompt this solution for the rest of America to enjoy so we can basically rescue those kids that are in Los Angeles, New York, Chicago? That's the first question. How do we promote this model now that we have it? We can describe it to anybody. The second one is Virginia Berry, the state of New Hampshire, recently testified to the New Hampshire Board of Ed School, the Board of Education, that school boards supported Common Core. And to speak to the moms, one of the speakers talked about earlier, it's because of those moms that are able to get that information out to elected people like myself that would never even know it existed, allows me now to represent those citizens like I should be. That's why I was voted. So I've tried to engage Virginia Berry. She won't engage me. So then I tried to engage Bill Duncan. Bill wouldn't engage me either. And I asked Bill, I thought you were a veteran. That's what I saw in his bio, but this is not what veterans do for their country. So, as an elected Hooksett School Board member, they will not engage me. Who do I engage, and through what process, to stop Common Core and the local control grab that it is?
So I think we're going to go to Jeanine first, and first was promote the law that they manage very well locally. We'll answer that question first. Go ahead.
Well, you've got to get your message out there because we do not have a media, do we?
That's right.
All right, and when I was a freshman at the State House in our conference, I stood up and Kevin was looking at this lady. I said, get on public access. It's free. If you can start a show, anybody can have a show. If you can talk, you can have a show. People do watch it, believe it or not. They do watch public access. So that's my advice to you, is start a show. Get on public access. Other towns can pick up your show.
The other thing too, just to expand on that too, Representative, can you talk about how important it is that people such as this show up at those committee hearings that you have in Concord, representative, even closely representative of what the topic he was talking about? Because you don't have a lot of people show up to these to testify, do you?
No, we don't. Well, it depends on the issue. When
Yes.
my committee had Obamacare, it was, what a lucky fun day that was. It was standing room only, and you can guess who came. By the busload, those people who wanted Obamacare.
Sure.
We even had one woman tell us that they had brought in a woman who had cancer, which I couldn't believe they would do this to this poor woman, making her think that her only chance in life is Obamacare. And instead of trying to, uplift her and surround her with love and encouragement, like, no, you gotta go in there and tell me you're gonna die if you don't get Obamacare. And the poor woman couldn't even speak. And I lost where I was going with this, but it was just incredible, the number of people that testify for Obamacare. Now, we have a lot of, what do you call those people that come in? Lobbyists, thank you, we have lobbyists that come in. And then you do get the occasional people that took the time off work, and it gets very frustrating when they don't get to speak because they run out of time, which we had seen at Judiciary when we were discussing the buffer zone. There was some people that.
So it does help. Representative Hoell too, and once again, so promote what they've done locally, but also if you want to talk about engaging these other entities, these bureaucrats that we typically don't have avenues to, how can a federalist type of approach be of assistance?
John, thank you for the question. I'm sure all of you were paying attention when Bill Duncan was nominated to be on the board then. There was a lot of phone calls and emails to the State House. We actually put more phone calls into the Secretary of the Executive Council than they had ever seen before. We had, 3 days between the time we were notified and the time that decision was made. One of the things that I would encourage you guys to do is, we just finished the election. There's a new set of representatives, some of whom are in the room, representatives elect, some of whom are not here. You should have their cell phone numbers in your phone before the end of the year. You should call them often enough that they know you by name, and your number is in their phone, okay? That's how we keep, and it's happened to me, so I'm not asking you guys to do anything that I haven't done prior or has been done to me. It's important, because once you're that familiar with your state reps, you have a much better say than even coming up to testify. You can talk to them about the bill the day it gets filed. So when bills start showing up in January, even before they're assigned to a committee, you can talk around, hey, I found out this bill regarding Common Core, okay, is out there. What are you going to do about it? How are you going to ensure that that passes? Those type of questions happening before it gets to a committee is really fundamental in changing the process itself, because people will be highly motivated to make sure the bill passes.
Well said, and remind everybody too that the people that we talk about actually show up at these committee hearings too. If your representatives are aware that these questions are out there, they then have the opportunity to ask these questions, to push for action, for engagement. Representative Itse.
Thank you. One of the things you have to realize is that the state legislature has not required Common Core. In fact, even last term, during the Democrat administration, the debate was whether or not to prohibit Common Core. The imposition of Common Core has actually been for the Department of Education. I had had a meeting with my school board. They said, you know, we need protection from these legislative mandates. I said, there is no legislative mandate. We didn't do it. However, I do have a bill in that will cause all rules to come before the legislature. Right now, only new rules do. They all need to come before the legislature every time they're reauthorized. And also the wrinkle is only rules that are a result of new public policy, new laws come before the legislature. If they make rules outside of our legislative mandates, those do not come before the legislature. We need to take back our legislative authority. It is the locking principle, non-delegation. That's a violation. All legislative power resides in the legislature. And my school board is supporting me.
Excellent. Next question over here, far side. Matt, how are you?
Hi, Matt Kittredge from Rochester, former city councilor. Concerning the issue of the gentleman that was abused by the Attorney General, I go back to the idea of tort reform. I understand that in Switzerland, if a case is not proved against the defendant, a criminal case, then his court costs, his out-of-pocket costs, even the costs that are incurred because of the prosecution, fall to the state to pay. In other words, one of the reasons that Attorney General was able to do this was his salary was being paid by we, the taxpayers, and he was not responsible for adverse consequences, whereas the defendant was. Is there anything that the legislature has in prospect to do something about tort reform in general?
Thank you, Matt. So, Senator, I think you have an answer for that?
Well, I will definitely look into it, and I wholeheartedly agree. I did everything I could do to stop it from clapping. But yes, you're right. I think if one department has to pay for the burdens put on the people, whether it's the Department of Environmental Services or Transportation or the Attorney General's office, if they go after individuals and there's no fines, and it costs them some money of a certain amount, either 1,000 or 185,000. Maybe if their department were going to have to pay that expense, they would quell what, squash whatever the over abuses. And these people, believe it or not, a lot of them suffer in silence, and you never hear them because your news isn't getting out there. The people aren't. Jeanine is just not doing his job. But.
So it's like, yeah.
By the
Well,
way,
the New Hampshire perspective does.
you should get on Jeff Jennis's show with the other gentleman, and then get your.
Very good. And we'll let Representative Hoell go ahead and finish up on that one.
Matt, thank you for the question. There are certain sections of our statutes that have that clause already in, not for the one that you just brought up, but I'm going to use the area of firearms, right? If a police officer, the chief in a town, denies you a license, okay, and denies you a license for reasons that he can't prove, the attorney's fees are covered by the town. So you can turn around and take the chief to court. It's a great idea. It's a great way to turn and make sure the citizens aren't being abused by their legislative or judicial branches.
Very good, thank you. Question back here?
My name is Dan Hoell, and I have a public access program for 9 years now on Channel 23 in Manchester. You know it works. Well over 4,000 viewers. It airs 4 times. 4,000 viewers. I average about 9,000 by the time it airs 4 times. When I go live, I have about 4,000 viewers. Let me tell you what I did with Common Core in the month of October. We're only allowed 1 hour. 5 shows an hour. Yet, I was able to get 52 hours of Common Core informational programming. Why? Because there are 75 other producers in Manchester, and I talked to them about it. And they allowed us to use their airtime or bringing guests on their shows, and we talked about it. We had live people around the country, experts on Common Core. The only way to fight Common Core, as you said earlier, you need to pull it back. We are losing local control. We are losing the school board control. October 16th of last year, our school board was told that they had no choice to take common core. If they didn't take it, they would lose the free money, excuse my language, that damn free money. That's not theirs to begin with. But the question is, the test. Why can't we, as a district, any district in New Hampshire, not opt out? Why is it our federal government telling us that we have no choice to opt out? That's not America.
Very nice.
I want to just address part of the statement with the access. I'm involved with Access National. I have 8 city chronicles and speak up. Carl Seidel has the People's Voice. Representative Burt has. Of course, Representative Nodder has speaking with Jeanine. Chatting. We're involved with it, but I have a question. How do you know your ratings? Because we don't have a clue. But if you don't have access, local access in your area, you can go to a neighboring town, and I believe Dick Gagnon can also help you in your town. Somehow stream it out to the local accesses. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a crisis in our country because our media is not telling us the truth.
How do you stop it? If I'm not mistaken, has any local school board or local municipality been forced to actually have to take administer this test?
I believe that they are as an agreement for taking the money.
Right.
So,
I'm not sure what Manchester.
Right, so the issue is just say no. I mean, and that's up to the local school board. They have to say, no, I don't want the federal money.
Representative Hoell.
3 years ago or 4 years ago, we had a bill in that would have basically said we're no longer interested in participating with No Child Left Behind. The budget costs associated with that were like $65 billion or something, loss of revenue from the federal government. And the teacher unions and others said, no, we have to have this. But at the end of the day, we still leave the reins of the federal government in place because we've had to do a waiver since then, but they have control of our education system because we allow them to dictate it to us through money. We need to pass a bill that basically says we want to opt out. We want to be done with No Child Left Behind. We're no longer going to comply with the federal mandates. And in doing so, we're going to fund education at the state level. And we're going to no longer participate with the federal mandates because it's only through the dollars do those strings exist.
Do we want one more question? Representative Groen, go ahead.
Thanks. Warren Gruen, representative from Rochester. Gas line and something was mentioned earlier. For example, we have the Northern Pass, which we're not going to get any electricity from. The people in the north are saying it's ugly. So the discussion now is centered around it'll be buried if it gets done. But we have the same thing with the gas line, which we sorely need the natural gas. We're at the choke point. And so the line is being built in New Hampshire strictly to give us the gas. But yet I see people organizing against it. How do we deal with that? The eminent domain versus, hey, this is something we really need.
I'm not sure necessarily that we are. I think it's almost a similar scenario with the Northern Pass, where they're not actually going to build an infrastructure for us to draw from. They're going to have probably some substations, but from what I understand, their original intent is so that they can go to Canada and export it. And it's a similar situation. That's why some people are against it. You know, I'd love to see it go Route 3 and everybody be able to tap into it so that we could have some competition in the state. I'm not sure that's their intent. Now, they were planning on going through Hollis and Brookline. Now I think they're planning on going through Ringe, and they're just doing a zigzag. But I believe their real goal is to be able to go through, have some substations going all the way to Canada so they can
parties, you all control anything. Imagine if you did this on a quarterly basis. I know all of these people would make themselves available to come and speak in this kind of panel environment. And trust me, a panel environment where I know we left about 10 questions out there, and I'm sorry about that, but this will happen every single time you invite great people like this to appear before your groups. So do it more often, and you'll love the response. Ladies and gentlemen, big round of applause.